The second video for the day. We got a Caro Kann. This is Caro Kann Adventures 13. That means I've got a host of Caro Kann games in my video on my channel here that I'd like you to enjoy. Some of them going back as old as I think 7 years that I've been playing this opening and putting videos up. There was a day back then when there weren't very many chess channels on YouTube, and there's a guy, Jay Roby, and I were the two guys that were putting most of the chess content out on YouTube, and we were both pretty popular back in the day. These days, you can look at my numbers and see that I'm not getting into the hundreds of views sometimes in my videos. When back then it was consistently in thousands, tens of thousands. I had a Queen's, I think it was a trap in the Queen's Gambit that I found. It was like 140,000 views or something like that. Which for a guy at my level is a lot. There's guys that are, master class that are getting lots of views. They'll get that much on most videos they post these days. But back in the day, it was fun when there was a few of us and we were doing the best we could to try and set a standard, put some video content out there on YouTube and get the higher level players interested in putting their own content out. So, anyways, there's a history of Caro Kann Adventures games that feel free to go back and look over the years at the stuff that I put together, and let me know what you think. Okay, so you've seen these moves before if you've watched my videos. A6 I play as a waiting move here. I'm going to play C5 eventually, so it's nice to have this A6 move here just to keep his bishop from being in this annoying square up here on B5. So A6 serves its own purpose, but it also works well as a waiting move here. This is a move I don't like to see as black. It's the best move as white bishop d3 here. It keeps me from coming to f5 with my own light squared bishop. And black's light squared bishop is always the piece that's the biggest trouble on the Caro Kann, and especially in the French defense where you hem it in early. Your first move is e6, blocking your light squared bishop in, and that piece doesn't come into play until much later in the game. There's some variations, including some strong variations of the Caro Kann, in which that is certainly the case, where black doesn't get to deploy on that diagonal and comes out the other way instead. This game, I'm able to achieve the goal I want. I played h6 here, another weighty move, another one I don't like to play. Better in this situation would have been to just play queen to b6 directly here. After he played f4, it's a bit of a strange way of handling the Caro Kann. It kind of strips white's advantage away in having that first move and lets black equalize here. So queen b6 was a good move. Queen c7 would have been okay, but queen b6 I felt like since this is so well defended, I felt like b6 was good. It defends here, it attacks there, keeps this bishop covering this pawn for now unless he moves it, in which case this pawn's for free and that rook's hanging. So yeah, you gotta do something about this threat, and usually the knight is the way to handle that threat. In which case I get to put my bishop out, and so I've achieved my goals of setting up my center and deploying my light square bishop. My queen's on a good square, and my kingside pieces, as always, are going to come out a bit late in the Caro Kann. You can see I'm 6 moves in here, and my kingside back row hasn't been touched at all. I make the trade here. Slightly better would have been to play e6 first, and then after castles, c5. This is good. It gives me some pressure here, and he's going to have some trouble here. I mean, he has to capture at this point and let me come out with a check, play h1. If he doesn't capture there, let's say for some reason he decides to kind of harry my bishop here, and we do something like this, then he takes d4 and he doesn't have a response. He can't retake. He's only covered it once. Queen d3 just to stop it from moving. Knight c6, I'm defending it, and now I've got this extra pawn sitting here in the middle, and I achieved, my second goal in the Caro Kann. One is to play my light squared bishop, and 2 is to attack and win a pawn on d4 and keep pressure on e5 as well. So that would have been great. And I've said this in my videos before, and I need to remember it some more, to go ahead and lock up with e6 as long as I can do so and still remove this knight at a later time. So my move order is a little bit wrong, but that's my own fault. I played knight d7 here, preparing for c5, and you guessed it, c5 is coming. C3 is what he played here, and this is a bad move in most variations of the Caro Kann. There's a lot of times that just playing c4 is a better option. In this case, I think c4 would have been much better for white. It puts us both in a situation where we have to calculate, we have to decide kind of what we'd like to do. Either way I capture gives both of us some options here. Even if I don't capture and play something like knight e7, then white, it puts it back on white to decide which way they want to capture, and both ways work out well. King h1 is a good move here just to get off of the diagonal, so I don't get to capture with check. So when you're on the white side playing against the Caro Kann, you see the c5 break. Take a second and consider c4, and as long as you can't find an immediate way that it loses, consider it as a move that might be very strong. You can imagine c4 here. If I take, for example, sure, I've won that pawn there, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to maintain this pawn, and it doesn't mean that I can maintain this pawn. And so, we'll go ahead and put a second attack there. Bishop takes is in the cards right here, and these kind of variations occur. This is strong for white. I have an isolated queen's pawn here, and he's got a piece camped out in front of it, which is always what you want against an isolated queen pawn. Is blockaded with a piece. So just for your reference here, c4 instead of c3 is a lot stronger. C3 is what I like to see because it gives me a chance to, now he doesn't have that pawn defending, it gives me an open C file for my rook, and that's coming soon enough, and all of those things. And so, okay, so knight comes out here, and I do this quite a bit. I play my knight from g1 to e7 out to f5, and this gives me a second piece attacking the d4 square. A lot of times I'll have my knight sitting on c6 at this point, and so I'll have two knights and a queen both pointing at it. It's really hard to deal with as a white player. But since my knight's here on d7 instead, I don't have the advantage of putting three pieces on that pawn right now. Okay, rook c8 is deployed here, and bishop d2, so another defense on that pawn. So now my aspirations of putting an attack on d4 need to be let go, and I need to focus primarily on something else. Now I'll take a second here, take a look. If you want to pause even, there's a really obvious tactic for black to win some material. But the quick way, and this is the move that I played, is knight to e3. Because this is a weak backwards pawn, it's less of space behind it. The squares e4 and e3 are both great places to put my pieces. In this case, I attack the queen and the rook, and I get to snatch one. So now I'm up in exchange. I'm feeling pretty happy with myself, and I'm thinking, with this awkward pawn structure, with this king a little bit loose, I still have a dark squared bishop to attack on this diagonal, which is great in case this pawn ever does get taken, and I can slice into his king side. Everything's going for black right now. And so I just play a simple bishop e7, preparing for a castle, and he plays f5. Okay, castling would have been good here. I can castle, and perhaps after f6, g takes. And I got nervous about this variation just because I don't like what happens when queens kind of come over here and threaten my king. I've been caught before where I felt unsafe, didn't know how to respond to it because I'm blocked here with these pawns. I didn't know how to get pieces in to defend the way I needed to. I mean, in this case, I can just take it, but there's other situations where I can't, and it freaks me out. And so I was afraid of castling at this point, and I decided to play my rook up to c6. This gave me two options on how to retake this pawn, and I chose the f takes e6 variation here. Castling at this point is probably not a great idea, just because of how many pieces he can have pointing down on my king side if he wants to. So my king at this point is kind of destined to stay in the center. What I end up doing, as you'll see in a few moves here, is making a run down the queen side of the board, and with my king, and I just kind of jaunt over here and get my king to safety on this side. So king d8 here. Now blackness or whiteness an opportunity here to play immediately this way. After queen takes g7, I have to play rook f8. He can take on h6 now if he wants. He can play his bishop over, put 2 pieces on if he wants. I mean, there's great play for white if he had played his queen first. Instead, he played the bishop first and then the queen. I did some quick calculations here and realized that rook to g8 was going to work out just fine. I was nervous at first, and right away I started calculating what happens in this scenario. So I'll just show it to you quick. I can take with my knight here because the pawn is pinned. There's nothing defending this now except for that pawn. And if he takes that pawn attacking my knight, I just back off. My rook's well defended. This rook's ready to deploy here. In fact, 2 pieces at the same time. And black's still looking really fine. I can get my king tucked away back here wherever I want. I can put it all the way up to a7 if I want. I'm going to be looking just fine. So let's go back. Rook g8. He played a4. So here I missed for the first of 2 times that I can just play straight up queen takes b3, and now his queen side is decimated. His bishop is hanging. His knight's not looking strong. His rook's not looking strong. This pawn is hanging right here. I can just snatch it now if I want to. I mean, there's all sorts of shenanigans that I can pull right here. I can still play knight takes e5 here, and after d takes, rook f8 check there. Or I'm sorry, yeah, rook c1 check there. I did that backwards. I'm sorry. Not rook f8, or not rook c1, rook f8, and after perhaps bishop g3, there's rook takes, pawn takes, queen takes, and no matter which side of the board we're talking now, you can see how bad shape white looks. This is just a spectacular place to be for black. I didn't take the pawn there. I was thinking more about getting my king to safety on this side, and I neglected that. My opponent must have slapped himself after he moved to a4 here, and immediately put his queen back to defend that pawn. And I bring my king over. Like I said, and get over here to b8. Now look at this here. He just blocked off the defense of that pawn again, and I missed the capture of that pawn. Which wouldn't have resulted in as much of a gain as the other variations because his queen's now over here defending everything, but still would have been a good way for me to force his queen side to kind of fall apart. So here's some options. Here's how I played over the board. Bishop takes c1 here. I played rook f8 check, and he walked into a mate in 2. You can probably spot it here, that just queen takes, or queen e1 check, the only defense is queen f1, and then queen takes f1 as mate. So the game ended right here with my opponent's resignation. He would have been better off blocking with his bishop here, at which point my queen falls back to d6, and we continue. Black's not as strong as he was before. I still had some work to do to win this game here. Yeah, I'm up in exchange, and the pawns are even. It doesn't mean that I've got a 1 game. It just means that I'm in a position where I can get some work done, and I've got some better options than my opponent. So, anyways, I hope you found the game instructive. I'm going to run back to the beginning here just to point something out. When he played f4 here, this is a move that I don't like because of how it weakens the king. If you're going to castle king side and you're playing f4, you're putting yourself in some danger, and I really hope that you're tactically sharp enough to know how to handle situations like that. I believe King Crusher plays some stuff this way. You should definitely check out King Crusher's channel. He puts out lots and lots of cool live bliss games. It's funny the way he opens every video. Hopefully everyone's another exciting 5 minute oops, auto pairing. So if you've watched his videos, you've seen that before. But yeah, definitely check out King Crusher. Put some great videos out. He sits at I think around 21, 2200. So he's a strong player. He's a good one to learn from for sure. But he plays this F4 move in lots of variations, and still castles on the king side. He knows how to handle it because he's a master level player. For guys like me that are amateur club level players, it's a bit different. So F4 is a little shaky if you're going to castle king side. Now let me show you something. I think I might have mentioned this in my earlier in my last video here, but I'm exploring with the Vienna game right now. I wanted to start playing E4, but I didn't like the standard responses with knight F3, knight C6. I don't like the Roy Lopez. I've played the quiet game here. I mean, there's nothing wrong with these openings. They're all fine. I just found them boring, E4, E5, and I wanted to mix things up and play something exciting. I discovered the Vienna game. I've seen it before. I've been playing chess for, I've been playing chess competitively for 15 years, and so, I've seen all sorts of stuff over the board here. But, I bumped into this, and all of a sudden I thought, you know what? I think that might be the opening I'm looking for. It resembles the Queen's Gambit in some ways. It's not an immediately sharp game for white. E5 is actually the better response here rather than just playing D4 straight up. Because his knight, you can see, has nowhere to go. Knight takes here, queen takes. So he's forced to play his knight back this way. Queen G4 is strong here. His bishop's now not allowed to deploy. D6 is often played, and queen takes. So this is the kind of game that you might see frequently out of Vienna. It's an even game. You can see that I've deployed most of my queen side here. I'm going to play D4 most likely, and then castle queen side. And these are exciting games that I'm working on. So I'm learning this. I'm studying a Vienna game right now. You might see some videos coming in the next couple of weeks or months in the Vienna game. So hopefully I'll have some games that are exciting enough with some cool tactics so I can show you and put those videos together. So that's the situation where I do think that F4 is a sound move after E4. And that's because castling queen side is an option. You can definitely castle king side in a Vienna game. That's possible for sure. But again, I hope you're master level or high club level and you're ready to handle the tactics that arise. I most likely won't castle king side if I'm playing a Vienna game. I'm going to steer myself towards queen side castling variations. So that's just something I wanted to point out at the end of this video is my commitment to learning this Vienna game. And my plan is that if I'm playing against the Caro Kann, if that's the opening, I know this well. I'm going to get my bishop out here this way. I'll welcome the exchange if he wants it. I know how to play these games. I can play the advanced variation well. This is stuff that I know from both ends, and so I can play against the Caro Kann just fine. If he plays the French defense, in my mind, I mean, the French defense is sound in its own way. I tend to think of the French as just kind of a crappier version of Caro Kann, to be honest. That's probably not fair. That's just how I see it. The dark squared bishop is more quickly deployable. You get to play c5 in one move instead of two in the French defense. So there's definitely some reasons to play the French. It's close enough to the Caro Kann that I'll be familiar with kind of where I want to play and where I want to go with this game. There's some variations in the French defense where I think F4 is not a bad move here. Get my knight behind it, castle kingside still, and I don't feel too bad about this diagonal. In this opening, C3 is not bad. bishop to e3, those kind of moves to keep myself safe on the king side. Castling queen side, on the other hand, in the French defense is not something I recommend. You can see whichever side that your pawns are pointing towards is kind of where your attack ought to be heading. You can see black's pawns are pointing towards the queen side. So in the French game, you're going to see pawn storms frequently on the queen side, and I don't want my king over there if that's what's coming at me. I'd rather have my king on the queen side. So anyways, these are openings that I'm prepared for. Against c5, my goal is to continue to study the smith-morra gambit. It's giving up a pawn here, and it opens up some pretty cool stuff. And smith-morra is a fun game. I posted a couple of videos in the smith-morra, probably, geez, I don't know, 6 years ago, that I had some exciting games in the smith-morra. There's some really cool tactics. White gets out way ahead in development in the smith-morra, and it makes for some really exciting games. And so I'm hoping to learn the smith-morra and the Vienna game as the two games I want to study right now on the white side of the board. When I'm playing opponents that are higher rated than me, I'll probably just stick to my Queen's Gambit openings because they're safer, they're tighter. I know exactly where my pieces belong in those openings and whatnot. So definitely play the openings that you're comfortable with. But you need to spend some time experimenting with some games if you want to see yourself grow. So try some new things out. Commit yourself to learning a new opening and maybe spend a month playing it so you get a feeling for how it works. Study the lines. Look up games on YouTube. Look up master games. Look up grandmaster games in those variations and see what you can find. There's a great website called 365 Chess that will kind of walk you through some openings. You can kind of select pieces and it'll tell you kind of win percentages based on what the next move might be. And that's a resource that I use frequently as I'm studying openings to kind of figure out which directions are commonly being played in the last couple of years. So, anyways, we had ourselves our Caro Kann video with a touch of the Vienna and smith-morra conversation at the end. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please share, like, and subscribe. I'd love to hear your comments and questions. Tell me where you think I went wrong. Tell me some ideas you have. Let me know if you're interested in trying the Caro Kann. I'd be glad to even chat with you sometime and talk through some ideas. Maybe we can play over the board online and we can walk through the opening together and I can kind of show you how I handle different threats. So anyways, leave some comments. Let me know what you think and please keep your eyes open for some more videos. Thanks again. Have a good day.